Okay, hi everybody. I'm back, and I'm still coughing, but hopefully that's not too bad for you guys. Uh, Based on the title of the game, I am back to streaming. I've checked that we're unmuted, so that should be great. We are playing a game that I really
Hooray.
like called Train Valley 2, and this is very much an Emilio game, right? This game is basically a lot of what I do at work. um, so
You and I are so different. I used to play what was it? Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Tag Force at work.
Yeah, I mean, I would do a whole day of hard work and then I would play this game, to relax. And it basically is just more of my work.
Oh yeah, no, I played it after work as well, not during ever.
So,
Anyway, hi Ill State Fishing.
yeah, hi
You've never
everybody.
heard of this game? Well, now you have, buddy.
This game is actually a sequel to another train game called Train Valley 1, and Train Valley 3 is out. So, look out for that.
What will they come up with next?
Train Valley 4. I love this game for a lot of reasons. Firstly, I
Train
think
Valley Reckoning.
yeah, Train Valley Revengeance.
I like trains too, Ole. Welcome to the stream.
Hello. Or maybe like Train Valley Gaiden or something like that. And it's a completely different game. Like an FPS.
You're a robot train. You're a train mech now, and you have
Yeah.
to save the president's daughter.
Yeah, it's just Armored Core. um
Did
okay.
they save the president's daughter in Armored Core? I never played it.
No, they don't. No, that's just a joke. But
Oh,
anyway,
we have to manage funds?
yeah. So how this game works is basically you are in charge of a train company, and you have to do two things. You have to build the infrastructure for the railway, and you have to manage the trains, and that's really difficult, actually. Especially if you
Cool.
want to get 5 stars. So you can see that basically for the first like 10 levels, I can get like reliably 3 to 4 stars, and then the next bunch is like 3, and then 2, and then as we go
The
up,
industrial age kicked your ass.
yeah, and then as we go up, like for some reason I got 4 stars on the Harry Potter level.
Oh, that's because you're a turf.
And then and then we get into
Got
this.
0 stars on Kansai Airport.
Yeah, and I got 3 on Hyperloop, which is just, oh my god, yeah. But as the game goes on, it's much harder because the thing is, the game keeps. So the reason why I said this game is very difficult is because generally speaking, you're solving a dynamic problem, right? You're trying to figure out how to run a railway in real time, and that is not easy. I also like this game because the graphics are really cute. I'm a big
Yeah,
fan.
it's a claymation.
Yeah, this is low poly, right? I really love low poly graphics. It's something
Yeah.
that I very much enjoy. So first up, we have to pick a train style that you guys want.
Okay, either the very first one, which is classic steam engine, or we're going Thomas the Tank Engine.
So we can pick. I haven't unlocked all of the trains, unfortunately. I haven't dedicated hours of my life to winning this game, but we do have a choice. So we can get the Lord, the Pioneer, or the Octopus.
Let me see the which one is more Thomas the Tank Engine? Because it's either the Octopus or the Lord.
I think it's the Pioneer, actually.
No,
Oh,
that's
wait.
not what Thomas the Tank Engine looks like at all.
No, you're right. It's the Lord. The Lord is very much a Thomas the Tank Engine style.
What is the sacrilege I'm hearing?
No, you're right. You're right.
Anywho,
All right. So
before we get into the very mentally involved process of trains, let me read the chat real quick.
sure.
Ole says, "How's it going with you guys? This afternoon, I've been tearing my head out, little reinstalling New Vegas and grappling with the mod manager. I have been there, my dude."
I think we've all been there.
I literally messaged Emilio at like 4 in the morning saying like it's been 5 hours. I have played 5 minutes of New Vegas and I've spent the other hours installing mods. Ill State Fishing also says Train Valley Resurrection.
Trent, that's a good one.
Yeah.
All
We
right.
could resurrect the
Let's
go.
Let's
It's a
jump into
boat.
it. Level 1, Forestry.
I guess boats like that would have 2 water wheels on the side of them.
Well, I guess
That makes sense.
it does depend on the type of
Because
boat.
then if it only had one, it would only be able to go like right.
Yes. So the way that this works is that the game, generally speaking, doesn't impose any hard limitations on you. If you run out of money, for the most part, I think you lose. But the way that you show your mastery is that you try and get the stars, right? Trying to
Hmm.
beat the level in as fast of a time as possible. You try and earn enough money. There are different objectives and things like that. You can crash the trains, which is very bad because the trains explode and you lose all the cargo they were carrying, and also part of your track gets damaged. So let's just jump into it.
Other citizens?
So I'm gonna skip the tutorial and just gonna pause. And basically, how the map looks, you can see it's adorable, right? I just love these low poly like graphics, and you can see like little cranes and things. So the idea here is that there are these places where people are, and people need to be sent to workplaces, and then they'll produce goods. Then you can use those goods to send to other workplaces to produce finished goods. It's actually very clever, where you can refine different levels of resources. So like, for example, on this map, we have lumber, logs, and planks. And,
Okay, so you need people to go to the log place to get the logs first, and then take them to the plank place to turn the logs into planks.
yes.
Sick.
So right now, I've built a basic track like that. And then I went to dispatch. And you can see that we've got 2 trains currently scheduled. And there they go, right?
Hey.
The train moves in real time, carrying the people.
Choo choo indeed.
Yeah, so if
I love like polygonal clouds, can I just say?
Yeah, I
The
mean,
little polygonal like steam.
yeah, it's a lot of fun, you know, and there's a lot of details. Like when the factory is actually working, you know, you get a little animation, which I think is adorable. But the other thing here is that in order for us to actually win the level, we have to meet these basic resource requirements. So this place needs 2 logs and 6 planks.
Okay.
And you know, generally speaking, we want
So
to be.
we have to get the like at least 2 logs back
Yeah.
before we start getting the planks.
Before we get the planks, yeah. Sometimes you can schedule them in any order, but here we need the logs first and then the planks. Now you'll notice that as we dispatch trains, we do get paid, right? So we do get money based on how many people and goods are moving. Generally speaking, the more processed the good, the more money you get. So we only get 4,000 for moving logs, but I guarantee you that if we move planks, we'd get a lot more money. And we've upgraded that, so now we built a sawmill. And I am going to.
Did we have to upgrade that?
Yeah, we do, because we need to get planks. And that's
okay. Oh, so we wouldn't have been able to get the train there if we hadn't upgraded it.
Well, yeah, we wouldn't be able to send anything to that building if we hadn't upgraded it. Now, what's also interesting about this game is that they add dynamic resource requirements as well. So there are levels with power stations, for example, and some resource buildings need power, which means you need to connect them to a power grid and you need to like send coal to the power station.
You do this in your free time?
I basically work on optimization problems, and this is the hardest type of optimization problem to solve. A dynamic optimization problem that has free constraints.
But that's what I mean. You're doing work. You're doing work in your free time.
Yeah, I know. Look, I never said there were things wrong with me. All right.
This is mental. You're watching a stream about mental illness now. This is what ADHD looks like. Also, Ole says enjoyed the video about Lord of the Rings compared to A Song of Ice and Fire.
Thank you. That video has been ruffling a lot of jimmies.
Yes.
A lot of
yes,
people,
indeed.
A lot of people posting comments that feel like they haven't read the video. I mean, they haven't like watched the video, and I'm like,
I feel like a lot of our comments are like that.
Yeah.
Where people are like, I can't believe they did this, and it's like, but we didn't. I remember the fascism video we did about AI.
Yeah.
And this one dude commented literally like 2 guys who know nothing about fascism talk about fascism. And it's like, first of all, dude, there were 3 of us in this video. We all introduced ourselves at the beginning, like.
Yeah. It's So one other thing that makes this game difficult is, generally speaking, you want to try and be earning as much money as you can, which means you need to be constantly shipping as many goods as you can get. So as you can see, that as the people work, they sort of get used up, which of course is a statement about industrial capitalism. But
we're never off the clock.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to earn money, because you need to earn money for this level's bonus goal.
Yeah.
but that is kind of difficult because you only have 3 trains, and I can't buy any trains or upgrade them. So
Ah,
I'm just trying to make sure, and you want to generally also keep track of your resources, because you want to make sure that like this building can only have 4 boards produced at a time. So
I see.
if I wanted to produce 6, I have to send 4 out first, or at least some
Okay.
out before. So I'm trying to keep track of that in real time, and also not get distracted by these lovely doodads, which is the technical term for what these things are,
And me.
and you as well, right? So how's everybody
Yes.
doing in the
I'm
chat?
I'm okay, so in the chat, Manaburnt has arrived and says hello. Sorry I'm late.
No, it's fine. Hi, Manabert. I am back to streaming after a very long absence. Um, but this is the most Emilio game that we've played on stream for a while. If a detective shows up and needs to solve the murder of his ex-wife.
What is a train inspector if not a detective with autism? Oscar, a new viewer, Oscar
Hello.
has shown up and asked J.R.R. Tolkien or George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, I gotta go with Tolkien. I just I like A Song of Ice and Fire, but I think yeah, we did it. We beat the
We
level.
won. We defeated trains.
And I got an achievement for that. Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Okay, so these are the world rankings. So I'm about
Did
80.
we beat the world rankings?
No, we were about 4,000 off from the best. However, the best person can finish this level in under 2 minutes, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That doesn't seem possible. Let's move on.
Yeah, okay, so next level, we've got the farm. So what I like to do before I start every level is I like to just sort of survey what is being required. So sometimes I think, the level will tell you kind of what's going on with the objective. So firstly, we can't destroy objects. We can't allow a train to arrive at a wrong station, and we've got, a time bonus. So just looking at this, we have a farm that produces grain, a town, a quarry that produces sand, and a cattle farm that produces cattle with nice little cute cows over there. Look at them. Very adorable. So we
I
need to
can't
get...
I can't imagine you must feel like really fulfilled in your life if you work at a quarry that produces sand.
Well, it's a very interesting process. Sand is actually
I'll
incredibly
take you.
valuable. Uh,
Yeah, okay. Emilio, you have to laugh at my jokes. This isn't gonna work out if you don't laugh at my jokes, dude. I don't have anything else to offer. No one can see me.
Okay, let's think about this. I think the
To
best...
answer your question, Oscar, I guess I would have to go with George R. R. Martin just simply because I've read more of his books. The only Tolkien book I read was The Hobbit, and I loved it, but like, I can't get into Lord of the Rings.
So I've read the Silmarillion, and I've read the Unfinished Tales, and I've read the appendices to the Lord of the Rings, and I've read a lot of Lord of the Rings. So
I just can't, dude. Like, it's so wordy.
it's
He
very
spends
dense.
so long talking about elves,
I know.
and like, I know what elves are.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, Callum, you know what elves are because Tolkien basically decided what elves are for all of fantasy, right? If you were reading his stories when he wrote them, you would have not had the same conception about what an elf is,
Yeah, I guess so, but like, I read books to relax, and I can tell pretty quickly if a book is requiring effort from me
Mm-hmm.
in and when I mean that is like when I get into a book and I'm absorbed by it, it doesn't feel like I'm trying to read it,
Okay, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I don't
you
feel
know?
that way about the Lord
And
of the Rings, though.
I just that was the problem for me. Like with The Hobbit, I got drawn into The Hobbit like immediately, and I just like got so into it,
Mhm.
you know? And well, that's my point, Ole, is that like Tolkien is wordy and Martin is also wordy, but it's the way that they write. Like Tolkien is very like, I don't know, what am I thinking of? Tolkien's prose is very thick, and Martin's prose is not quite as thick.
Yeah. I
And
would. No, go ahead.
well, Tolkien is also far more like about the world than Martin is. I feel like Martin focuses more on the characters
Martin,
than on the world itself.
Martin is, if I had to absolutely praise George R. R. Martin for anything, it's that he's an amazing character writer. He cut his teeth on TV, so like he's really good at writing characters basically and putting those characters in difficult situations. Um, you know, the issue is
Yeah.
that when it comes to world building, I don't think he's as strong. And
I like his world building a lot, but he doesn't like, in my opinion, J.R. Tolkien talks about the world a bit too much for me. Like it's interesting, like I'm interested in it, but at a certain point I'm like, okay, but I just kind of really want to know what the main characters are doing. You
yeah,
know? Like I don't like it's cool that you know all this and you worked all of this out and I'm really glad for you and you invented a whole language and that's rad, man, but like I also just like I'm here for the hobbits, you know?
yeah.
Like
I,
I want to read about the hobbits.
I think the thing is, it's like, you know, Tolkien didn't plan to write Lord of the Rings for basically anybody but himself. It was,
Yeah, I think that's a different thing. And also I think that that's probably why people like it so much because you can tell that he's really into it.
yeah, he's, you know how like there are like wife guys. Tolkien is, well, Tolkien was a wife guy, but he's also the very definition of whatever it is that his fantasy was. Um,
Tolkien is the like literature version of Gomez Adams.
yeah, he kind of is. Okay, let's
All right,
switch.
let me get into the rest of this chat real quick. Ole says still have most of Dance with Dragons left. At the moment, I'm still leaning Tolkien. And Ill State Fishing says doing all right. Looking forward to the puzzles. How are you enjoying the puzzles so far?
This, I will say, is already a step up in terms of problem complexity because we have multiple things that we've got to schedule. And also, you can notice that we don't have a lot of money. Uh, because I built this complicated.
Story of my life.
I
Too
built this.
many trains, too little money.
Yeah, I built this complicated railway. Because I'm trying to avoid the objective of destroying any terrain, right? So we can't destroy $5,000 worth of terrain, and that's not a lot of dollars. So I'm trying to complete the level without doing that. Also,
Okay, so it costs money for you to like terraform.
yeah, you can build bridges and tunnels and things, and it's very expensive, but it can cut down a lot on your travel time. And obviously, the faster you can move your trains, the more money you can make. Another objective that we're trying to hit is that we can't send a train to the wrong place, which is potentially very, that can be quite deleterious. I also want to get another engine because that will mean we can send 4 trains out, which I think will be really, really helpful.
I mean, hell yeah, homie, you do you. Real quick, what was I looking at? Manaburn says that they're incredibly biased because they've read everything Tolkien for fun and academic purposes, and they also laugh at my laugh, which is very nice. I'm glad to hear that. And Oscar, actually, I think that this will be a great question for you. Says, do you really know everything about elves? Do you know who Fingolfin and Feanor is?
Yeah, I do know who they are, right? They're
Describe them.
I'm not being put on the spot, but Fingolfin and
Paint me a
Feanor
word
are
picture.
like the OG. They're like some of the most OP elves in the Second Age because they're part of the. Like they're oh my goodness, I'm put on the spot here. Hang on, I just need to focus on this for a
Okay,
second.
do you want to think about this while I
No,
answer Ole's most recent question?
yeah, just give me a second, please, because
Okay, because I did watch Rings of Power, and I do have thoughts on it.
oh boy.
So here's my problem with Rings of Power. To be honest, it's most of the characters are just kind of boring. That's the issue. And like, yeah, that's it. Like, there's a lot of like Elrond and I think it's Gloin. Their
Yeah.
relationship is really good. I like watching them because they play off each other very well, and it feels like it still has like presence in the story. It's good. It's really cool, and it's fun to watch. And they're good actors. But like, unfortunately, what's her name? The Lady of the Forest. Her name starts with a G.
Galadriel.
Galadriel. Galadriel is an emotionless stick in the mud who is hell-bent on getting revenge for her brother, and the story decides that that is correct. She should
Ooh.
be that way. She literally convinces a human child at one point that he should be totally and righteously up for killing orcs. And it's like, ugh. This is, and it's like, yeah, like orcs are evil. I get it. They did just explode a mountain in your home. Fair enough, but like maybe this isn't the lesson. Maybe this shouldn't be the lesson.
Oh, I hear
Um.
you.
Also, another problem with Rings of Power, like I'm not going to go into the Sauron reveal because it was dumb. I hated it, but one of my biggest problems with Rings of Power is that they had a really good idea, and it's the only time I've seen that idea explored, and it sucks that it's in this show.
And what is that idea?
At one point, Galadriel meets an Uruk-hai, but it's not like the Uruk-hai that like Saruman makes. It's
Yeah.
like a corrupted elf, so he looks like an elf.
Okay.
And he brings up the point that the reason that they're trying to do all this is because orcs can't survive in sunlight, which I've never heard before. Is
Yeah,
that a thing?
that is true.
Okay.
Traditionally, a lot of the creatures that are created by Sauron have difficulties with sunlight. Like, for example, the trolls. In The Hobbit, it's actually a plot point that the trolls can't survive in sunlight, and Gandalf has to, Bilbo distracts them until the light shows up, and then the trolls turn
Yeah,
to
yeah.
stone. And then,
But I thought that was just like a folklore thing about trolls.
No, it's built into the lore, right? Because Tolkien
Okay.
does borrow very heavily from various bits of
Folklore.
folklore.
Yeah. I mean, all of the dwarves are named after like people in the sagas, right?
Well, you're gonna have to ask Vanderbilt about that one.
I think I remember hearing that the dwarves in the Hobbit were named after like famous dwarves and things from the sagas. But my problem is that like so Galadriel meets this Uruk-hai, and he's like, all I want to do is create a place where my people, the orcs, can live without like having to worry about sunlight. And that's interesting. That is an orc with characterization, and it's like, oh, cool, this is interesting. I wonder how they're going to resolve this. And then like we never fucking meet them again.
Yeah, I hear what you mean, right? Like it's a very interesting idea that they've got going on. Because one of the problems I think that you might have to grapple with if you're a student of Tolkien is that Tolkien didn't very much decide definitively about the nature of evil in his setting to some extent, right? Because like Tolkien was a Catholic, and Catholics don't believe that everybody they don't believe that somebody is beyond redemption, right? So like the idea that the orcs in the setting are like irredeemably evil, I think is an idea that would make him uncomfortable. However, the orcs are very convenient as bad guys because you can they're like very, very convenient to have as bad guys. So it's kind of a tricky situation, for the characters to be in.
Yeah, no, I just think it's interesting always whenever you have a I think it's interesting when you have a evil character who like explains like, hey, we're doing this for a reason. We're not just like evil for the sake of it.
Yeah, I like that too, because I also think that, like, The Rings of Power ostensibly is a show about the Second Age. Now, the problem with that statement is, of course, that they don't actually have the rights to the Second Age. So a lot of the more interesting stuff, like, for example, Feanor, Feanor is, like, one of the most important elves in that era, because he's the son of the king of the elves, right? And he gets into so much stuff in the context of the story, and it's actually genuinely emotional stuff, about betrayals and things like that. And it's very different from stuff that we might be used to thinking about, Lord of the Rings. So a lot of that cool stuff we just can't have because they don't have the rights to it. And I think that they're kind of trying to ask interesting questions, but they can't fully explore those questions because they don't have the rights. Which I think it doomed the entire it doomed the entire thing from the get go, right? Because how do you write a story about the Second Age, but you don't have the rights to the Second Age? It's just weird.
It just feels like at some points an executive was like, we should make a Lord of the Rings show. What should it be about? Oh, I know, the time when they made the One Ring. And it's like, that's cool, but that's one of the interesting things that happened during this period of time.
I personally feel like they should have specifically focused in on Numenor, right? I think they should have just followed the story of Numenor entirely, and not really bothered with Middle Earth as much. I know, Middle Earth is important to the story, but
Yeah, I think that they had way too many characters, I think, as well, was the problem.
yeah, and
They like split the story too
to
much.
this day, I don't really understand what the point of including the Harfoots was in this story. Like, they don't add anything really. They don't. You don't
Did they
use
have?
them.
Did they not have the rights to hobbits?
Well, what the? Ooh, okay,
Like, why
so
did they have to be Harfoots? Because they were basically hobbits.
well, what they're trying to say is sort of like an evolutionary perspective because they're not full hobbits yet. The hobbits, technically speaking, are like a, a different thing. But also, Callum. So I got 4 stars on this level again, but instead of
Hell
getting
yeah.
it done in the time, so getting it in 7:30, I got the other objective that I didn't have.
Oh
I just
yeah.
traded 1 star for the other. Okay,
Well, that's still pretty good.
before we start the next level,
The next
do you
level.
want to read the chat?
Yeah, we've missed a lot of things.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Oscar, before all of this talk about the Rings of Power and everything, says that they read A Song of Ice and Fire. They have only read Tolkien's most famous books yet.
I will say this.
Interesting fact: Tolkien was a linguist, and he translated Beowulf into English. So
Yeah,
you can buy a copy of Beowulf that has Tolkien's name on it.
and you can also get a Tolkien also translated Arthurian stuff as well, right? So you can get the Green Knight that has been translated by Tolkien as well.
Yeah, that's
He-
cool.
I believe the term is a philologist. Um,
No, no.
yeah, I think
I'm not accepting that word.
that's
That
what.
word is a train wreck. That word is a ha 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 train wreck.
Anyway,
Anyway, thank you for acknowledging my joke. Manaburn says actually, Manaburn says, I mean, there is much about elves. There are a lot of differences and singularity about elves, but Martin is very character and individual focused, true. And then they go on to say later that Fëanor and Fingolfin are the first
yep,
two
Finwë.
born kids of Finwë, ruler of the Noldor, and they do have very distinct looks and personalities indeed. And well, Rings of Power is absolutely trash, so can't blame you for that, Callum. It is so not okay. And the part that they could rarely make things interesting, they've just ruined. And the way they portray Galadriel is just terrible, terrible, terrible. Gandalf
Yeah,
would not approve, says Ole.
I
Manaburn says they completely destroyed Gandalf too, like 0 cents. I don't agree with that. I think the thing that pissed me off about the Gandalf thing so much was that everyone was like making such a big thing about like, oh, it's definitely going to be a blue wizard. It's absolutely going to be a blue wizard. And it's like, no, obviously it's going to be Gandalf. Why would it
man
be anyone except Gandalf?
man it should have been
Gandalf is like
Palando.
the most profitable wizard in history.
I'm Palando stands
But
in the
that's the
chat.
thing is like,
It should be Alatar or Palando.
why did no one remember that this is being made by Amazon? Of course they're gonna go with Gandalf. If it's
Yeah.
besides Merlin, he is the most profitable wizard in history.
Yeah, that's true. I guess the moral of the story is that you can't make good art
Also,
if
he
you're
wears gray. Come on.
if you're driven entirely by financial desires, right? Like if you want to make good art, you've got to make it without considering the financial responsibilities. Because I guarantee you, if a genuine passionate fan of Tolkien was doing this, that wizard would not be Gandalf. It would be Alatar or Palando, right? Or both of them, actually, because I genuinely think that we have space for the blue wizards in the rest of the continuity.
Because
and
we like know nothing about we
we know
we
so
know
little
nothing about them. They're an open canvas. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's writing catnip.
Yeah. You
Okay,
have the
also,
you have the
just
most
real quick to
yeah.
the most.
Yeah, sorry. What do you say?
No, I was gonna say we should try and get through the rest of the chat
Yeah.
real quick because we are quite behind. Also, hi Marcy, welcome to the stream, and thank you for enjoying my pun.
Okay, I'm gonna start the next level. Callum, catch us up with the stream.
Also, they called us nerds.
Guilty as
They
charged.
called us nerds.
Absolutely guilty as charged.
Shut up. I'm not a
Okay.
nerd. I'm cool.
Okay. Let's see.
I'm cool. I can throw a ball like you wouldn't believe. Like it goes all the way. Anyway, the
Hmm.
actual origin story of the orcs, says Manaburnt, does come from the corruption and defamation of elves indeed, and yes, the dwarves in Tolkien lore are based on names from the Norse Eddas. So I was correct, baby. Everyone make mouth noises at Emilio in what's the word I'm looking for? Dominance.
Okay.
That's it.
uh,
Yeah. That's what you get. Yeah, then Oscar reiterates the point. And Ole says, "You mean the dwarves and the hobbit have like 3 personalities between them and the rest have silly names?" Yeah.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
like
No,
there's
that's fair.
there's Thorin and Balin and Bomber, who's made well. His personality is that he's always hungry, and then Oin and Gloin, Feely and Keely, and Buffer and all of those others. But really, most of the
And
dwarves
both
are
are
interchangeable.
it's fun.
I hate to say it, but it's true, right? Uh, they are very interchangeable.
Absolutely. I mean, truly, I could not tell you which of the dwarves are which if you put them like all in a line with each other. I don't think that there necessarily needed to be 13 of them,
No, I don't think so either. But
but like
but you know
fair enough.
the thing is right. Like if you talk to Tolkien, I think he would probably say something like, yeah, maybe I could have done it, as a revision, but on the other hand, there's like some significance to the naming, and something like that. It's one of those things where it's like, if he had more time, I think he might have maybe changed the names of the dwarves, maybe cut down a couple. But on the other hand, Tolkien
Well,
was
wasn't he writing this? Wasn't he writing The Hobbit for like his son or something?
the Hobbit was aimed at children, right? There's
And every
no way around it,
yeah,
right?
I think he was telling his son. The story I heard about this, and I could be entirely wrong, is that he was telling his son a story and he kept forgetting the names. And in like an interview, in a letter or something, he was like, "Damn the boy, I'll just write them down."
Yeah, that does sound like Tolkien. Like we
All right,
he
Matsi says, "Full offense taken. Don't bash on my dwarves like that. I'll bash on them however I like. They have armor on. They can take it."
sure. Although it is actually, it's kind of a fun detail that like in the Lord of the Rings, there's only one person wearing armor during the entire Fellowship saga, and that's the dwarf Gimli. Everybody else is like, we need to travel, so we're not really going to be wearing lots of armor. I know Boromir technically has some, but like Gimli is wearing a full coat of mail.
Boromir is Boromir the only person in Lord of the Rings who uses a shield? Because he's the only one I can remember who uses a shield in the Lord of the Rings specifically. I know Thorin's pretty famous for using a shield in The Hobbit.
I mean, I guess if you had to look at it,
Like a main character. A main
yeah.
character, I mean. I know that there are like people in the army who use shields and so on.
I'm gonna say yes. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Boromir is the only main character in the Fellowship to actually have a shield. Because
That's wild.
the hobbits don't use shields. They barely use weapons. Legolas is Legolas, and
Legolas defies physics.
yeah, he does.
For
He does defy
fun.
physics. So
Remember that time that okay, so everyone complains about the third Hobbit movie. I don't think it's that bad. I
mhm.
think like everyone just sort of loves Lord of the Rings and they felt betrayed. But I will admit that it's the worst Hobbit movie, and one of the things about it that is hilarious to me is when Bilbo throws like 3 rocks and kills 3 orcs.
Yeah,
That's
that.
ridiculous. Like take the scene with Legolas jumping on bricks to get to an orc and hate it as much as you want, but Bilbo like breaks 3 orcs' skulls with a weapon he's never used before.
Yeah, I mean, it's mentioned, that hobbits are supposed to be good at using things like slings, but yeah, I totally agree with you that it is a bit ridiculous. That he kills 3 orcs just with 3 sticks. I mean, 3 stones.
It's like
Uh,
their like skulls are suddenly made of cake. Anyway, Um. So yeah. Ill State Fishing says, "Let's get back on track." Nah. Nah.
All right, so this is again another more difficult puzzle, I would say. You can see that the what I'm doing here is that I'm just waiting for that last train to make that passage, so I can get the 12,000 needed to make this loop. And once that's done, then it's almost a matter of pure scheduling.
Hell yeah.
Because now we need
It's the best part of any game.
just 2 glass and 4 bricks. So
Hey,
2 glass
those are
and
drug terms.
4 bricks. I'm just gonna schedule a bunch.
We're a drug train. Glass is meth.
Well, it is made with
Bricks
this.
are cocaine, technically. Although I suppose you can have bricks of heroin.
I mean, you could have bricks of, you could have bricks of like opium as well, right? There's no
Any sort of powder drug, you can have bricks of. But glass is always meth.
Why? What's the rationale behind that one?
Because meth crystals, the purer they are, the more like translucent they are. So they look like glass.
I see. Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. I will accept that explanation. Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta. Okay, so the final problem.
Also, just while we're sorry, I will let you finish now. I do want to suggest a new conversation for after this next one we're about to have. While we're talking about fantasy and stuff, to take a step away from Lord of the Rings and things for a second, I had an idea about like what weapons are coded to what kind of characters that I wanted to run by you.
Okay.
But finish your thought first.
No. Go ahead. My thought wasn't that important. What do you mean about different types of coding? So you're like bows are used in media for
you know how
weak people, I guess.
No, like bows would be like agile characters and things like that generally.
Yeah.
You know? Same with like knives. You would expect knives to be used by either characters who have no experience with fighting or characters who are very skilled.
Okay.
Swords have sort of like a general kind of they're not really coded too much. You can sort of give anyone a sword and you can pair it with like a shield, but the nice thing about a sword is that if you like have a character that you don't want to be lugging a shield anyway, you can give them a long sword and then just be like, they're so skilled, they can fight with a long sword and not need a shield.
Okay, yeah.
However, axes are more aggression coded.
Yeah, axes are traditionally associated with barbarian peoples, even though that is really not an accurate assessment of what axes are used for, right? But traditionally, it is like barbarian-coded people are axe-coded people for some bizarre
But also
reason.
clubs. Now here's the question: are clubs more or less aggression-coded than axes?
I'm gonna say clubs are less because you also can use like wooden like martial artists, like in the East, are often using wooden clubs.
Okay.
So
I agree with you. I think clubs are generally more coded towards like big and dumb but strong.
Yeah.
Whereas axes are more like pure straight aggression.
Yeah, I mean, when we think of an axe, we tend to think of somebody like a berserker, right? And even though that is a very contentious term historically, right? The way that people think about it is that, here's somebody who's not going to focus on their defense, which is true, right? If you're using an axe, it's not easy to defend yourself, which is why historically axes were always paired with shields. You don't really,
unless you're using like a battle axe.
You don't really see large two-handed axes except in rare cases. Like, for example, the Dane axe is one. India has a number of large two-handed axes, but again, these are very rare kinds of weapons, and they probably weren't used all that commonly. Especially if you don't have any armor, because your ability to defend yourself is fairly limited.
Okay. But let me bring this up on the side of the club. Baseball bats are a lot more like rebellion themed.
When I think of baseball bat, I tend to think of like teenager /punk, you know? Like,
Yeah, I tend to think like zombie apocalypse or like Rebel or
yeah, like
something.
here's a youth who's up to, shenanigans. Um,
Yeah.
and but I will say this, right? A lot of the um, worst examples of like sword use, they tend to default to using the sword like a baseball bat, right? And that's very obvious when characters are holding the swords that they treat it like a baseball bat. So, do you want to catch up with the chat
Yeah.
quickly?
Well, people are saying like okay, so we're quite a bit behind on the Lord of the Rings conversation. Do you want me to go back, or should I stick with some of the later
Nah, just
ones?
let's just keep it going. You guys, we're not necessarily going to do a play-by-play, especially because we
Okay.
have 6 viewers.
Yeah, Marcy is. Thank you all for joining, by the way. Hi, Mr. Hat. Welcome to the
Hey,
stream.
how's it going, Mr. Hat?
So Marcy brings up an interesting thing. Do you guys remember the Hobbit PS2 game, or did I fully hallucinate that?
I do
I
remember.
never played the Hobbit
I
PS2 game.
I do know the game that you're talking about. I never actually played it because uh, it's kind of a wacky game. But yeah, there was definitely a Hobbit PS2 game. It was an
That
action
is
platformer.
wild.
It was actually kind of like a Legend of Zelda type game where you go
What?
around. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like yeah, it was built like that. It's like a plat action adventure game where you go around, you solve puzzles, you have a sword, you can level up different abilities. If I'm not mistaken, you platform around as Bilbo Baggins. I think. Yeah,
I remember.
that was definitely a thing.
I, re- I remember the Chamber of Secrets PS2 game where you had to throw gnomes, and the like flue powder stuff was like a slide puzzle.
if I remember correctly, the Hobbit PS2 game was made by Vivendi, right? Back in the day, there used to be a very significant split in Lord of the Rings licensing because the way that it worked is that the movies were a separate license to the books. So EA got the movie license to Lord of the Rings, and that's kind of why a lot of their games kicked, butt in terms of sales because they were very familiar. And another company called Vivendi, they got the license for the books, right? And the problem is the books are not as well known as the movies, and the material is a lot harder to adapt. So they ended up getting the shorter end of the stick. So a lot of the book adaptations of Lord of the Rings stuff ended up kind of failing because
Huh.
Vivendi was dealing with a much more complicated license, whereas EA had the rights to the movies, and they could get like all the actors to come in and do the voices. They could show clips from the movies. They could use the official soundtrack, which is extremely good. I cannot emphasize just how good that
Yeah,
soundtrack is. So
banger.
yeah, it's just the deck was really stacked against them, to be honest.
Yeah. I will say, I do want to ask your opinion on the Shadow of like Mordor and Shadow of War games. Like, do you think that they are canon? And do you think that they are closer to the books or the movies?
They're not canon for sure.
Okay.
Because they deviate significantly in motivations and in lore. Like, the idea that Celebrimbor was somebody who was as power seeking as Sauron, because the whole point of that game is that Celebrimbor actually wants to become the Bright Lord. He wants to become a different version of Sauron, right? I mean, it's not impossible. A lot of the elves were capable of potentially doing things like that, but it very much breaks from what Tolkien wanted. That's the first thing. So it's not canon. It might be semi-canon in some sense, right? I do think the games are interesting, but they're definitely not canon, and I don't think they're book accurate at all. Especially in terms of like
Okay.
the implication of this book of this game is that Talion becomes a figure who basically stops Sauron from overrunning Middle Earth for years because he constantly keeps fighting him, as a ring wraith, at the end of the story, and I'm like,
And where the fuck is he in Lord of the Rings?
yeah, exactly, right? Like, realistically speaking, if a character like Talion existed, everybody would know about him, right? Everybody in Gondor would be like, who is this ring wraith who is battling Sauron? Because, Gondor is right on the doorstep of Mordor. Like,
Yeah, there's something happening over there.
yeah.
You just they see like a Balrog fighting another Balrog, and they're like, "We should tell no one about
Yeah,
this. They'll never
Boromir
believe us."
and Denethor has a Palantir, right? Like, he would be able to see all of that going on, and he never comments on it. He never's like, Boromir, don't do what that Nazgul Talion did.
Look, Boromir. Well, I'm gonna need get haunted by an elf now.
Yeah, but your brother would have been haunted by an elf and become a ring wraith.
This is my son Boromir and his friend Faramir. That meme still gets me, dude.
Yeah, look, it's question and canonicity, but
Eowyn
it's
also had a shield.
it's not
by the way.
yeah, but she wasn't in the Fellowship.
That's
And
fair.
the thing is, it's like
Oh, that's why they call it the Fellowship, because it's only the fellas.
It's question and
Boys'
canonicity,
match.
but it's not necessarily bad, right? I think one problem that you fall into with a lot of Lord of the Rings adaptations is that they cleave so strongly to the books that we ignore not books that they cleave so strongly to the movies that they genuinely try and ignore like other opportunities for storytelling. You know, for a long time, I felt like one of the best adaptations of Lord of the Rings was actually War in the North, right? Telling the story about how all of that other stuff was happening in the north of Middle Earth, you know, away from all the Fellowship and stuff like that. And yeah, I just think, you know, there's more potential here than what's being explored. And also, here we have 15 minutes of stream left, I think.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Wow, time has really
you
gone
get
by.
started on. Yeah, you get started on the level so long. I'll catch us up on the chat.
Sure. Okay, so this is the first
Okay.
level that actually has bridges. So you can see that there's a bridge over there. They connect over chasms.
no.
They're very expensive to build. I could get rid of it
Is it Jeff or Bo?
for $12,500.
Why would you get rid of the bridge?
You know, high level players, I've seen like various strats to, you know, not use bridges and things like that. It depends.
Look,
right?
if you want to take this game to Evo.
Yeah. You know, if you want to be featured in the next GDC, you know, like
Yeah.
you
I would love to say at one point in my life that I went to Evo. I just don't have the thumbs for it, man.
Yeah, look, Callum, Evo is a young man's game, and you know,
We say at the ripe old age of 27 and however old you are.
I'm 29.
You're 29?
Yes, I'm almost
You're
30.
older than me?
Yes, I'm 2
You
years
look
older.
5 years younger than me.
That's because I do not smoke, I do not drink, and I moisturize regularly.
It looks like I'm going through a divorce and you're like my stepkid.
Yeah, you know, I'm very fortunate in the fact that I take very good care of myself. However, you know, that being said, it is also aging is also genetics, right? You know, there are lots of people who age really, really well, and they do nothing basically to, you know, like manage their health. And you know, some of those people are very lucky, and some of those people are unlucky. You know,
Yeah.
I did read a study the other
for me-
day that said that like you're never too old to reap the benefits of quitting smoking, which I thought was very interesting.
Okay, this feels pointed now. This is a fun fact that feels a little bit pointed.
It's pointed like
I
an
will
S-stock.
say, yeah, I will say, Mr. It's never too late to quit smoking. You're sick for like the majority of the year, and I'm never sick.
Yeah, I mean that is true, right? I think one issue that I do have with my immune system is that I do get sick. I don't get sick easily, but when I do get sick, I stay sick for quite a while. And when I mean sick, I mean I just have very annoying coughs.
I was talking to that about that to Emilio once, and he literally sent me a text that was like, "Your damn northern genes,
Yeah.
your Nordic genes," and it's like, bro, you can't just call me that. You can't just say that shit to me.
I'm adept. I'm what is? Oh look, there's an Easter egg. Right, this is the Back to the Future
Okay,
Easter egg.
whoa. None of us are calling 29 old. Okay.
That's
Back to the Future Easter egg.
yeah, that's the DeLorean and the train tracks from Back to the Future 3.
Hey, 21.1 gigawatts.
Yeah. Now, how do I get wheat there? That's gonna be tricky.
Okay. Ole brings up a point that clubs are primitive coded, and both Ole and Marcy are 100% on Team Axe.
that
Mr. Hat grew up with Xboxes, so they have no idea about any of this.
Xboxes are cool, but I also actually grew up with Xboxes.
What?
Primarily, I was not a
I thought you were
PlayStation.
a I thought you only played computer. I just
Well,
thought you weren't a console guy.
well, you see, I only ever had one real console, and that was an Xbox 360, and that's why I'm so into Halo. um,
Oh, that makes so much sense. I can't believe that we've never bonded over having Xboxes before. I'm crazy into Fable, and I
yeah,
shouldn't be. It's a bad game.
the funny thing about us is that Callum and I have like we're very similar in some ways, but for some reason there are other things that are just completely different. Like for example, our love of Xbox games. I was not really into Fable growing up. I was very into things like Gears of War and Halo, which are not games that you might associate with me, but there you go.
Yeah,
uh,
to be honest, I think Halo is fun. I just it's also so ridiculous. And unfortunately, the fans of Halo have made it seem like it's an epic space opera.
it
And
is
it's like, no, it's not.
it's supposed to be, but
No,
uh,
it isn't. It's about a man in green pajamas who shoots goofy sounding aliens.
well,
I
actually,
need a weapon.
Halo is
I
about
need a weapon.
the is about the Gulf War.
It's about the Gulf War?
Yeah,
Holy shit, my dude. You were not beating the dad allegations. You're the only person under 30 that I hear bring up the Gulf War.
well, I've read like 5 or 6 papers on the Gulf War.
Why?
It's a very interesting conflict. It's actually one of the first examples of like what people thought modern war was going to be and what modern war didn't end up actually being.
And no one anticipated Battlefield stealing the market.
Yeah. I mean, that's true, right? Nobody did
Ugh.
anticipate Battlefield stealing the market, but it's like the Gulf War is the only time in world history where the superpower gets to be a superpower, and it's also a morally correct thing for the most part. Um, you know, it. I cannot emphasize enough just how mismatched the two sides were in the Gulf War and how much of a stomp it ended up actually being.
Is
Um,
that the one where England had boats that could fire like 18 meters and the other side had boats that could only fire 9? And so they were like, England just parked their boats like 10 meters away and took pot shots.
the Gulf War was the Allied coalition defeating Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait. Did,
Oh,
did you not know that? Did,
no. I literally just told you that you're the only person I know who brings up the Gulf War, and this is, I think, the first time you've ever brought it up.
I think it's one of the most important conflicts of the modern era, actually, because like it will set the tone for what modern warfare will look like. Like the M1 Abrams tank has its debut in that war, and it ends up being a really good tank. um,
So, okay, wait, you said it's the most modern, it's the most important, one of the most important conflicts of the modern era?
yeah.
Clearly,
Well,
this man has not, this, this man, Emilio, has not watched Hunter x Hunter. Thank you very
I
much.
I don't know what that is.
I've told you about Hunter x Hunter before. It's the
I,
one where the old man has a nuke in his chest and he punches it
uh,
to kill a super species of ants.
yeah. Okay. Sorry, Calvin. You've lost me.
No, I don't know how much more specific I can get without
Okay.
spoilers.
Okay. I think you know what we're gonna do is I'm gonna finish out this level,
And
and then we'll end the
yeah,
stream. Because we've
okay.
started, we might as well finish. Um,
Yeah. Wild thing is the nuke doesn't even work. The thing that kills the ants in the end is radiation poisoning.
really?
Yep.
Okay, that's kind of unusual.
Yeah, it's a really dark manga.
Have you heard about a
It's
manga? Oh wait, have you
yeah.
seen the Junji Ito anime adaptation? The
I
new
have
one.
not. I don't really read Junji Ito though.
So apparently it's really terrible because they ran out of money. or something in the production. So like episode 1 looks like Junji Ito, and then episode 2, 3, and 4 look like trash. It's
Ugh,
it's I feel
that's
like
happened before,
I
yeah.
feel like it's cursed. I feel like Junji Ito, like physically, his work is cursed. Like if you try to adapt it, it just ends up producing.
This adaptation's for me.
Yeah, it's I don't understand like why we've failed so many times now to produce a version of Junji Ito's work that is good, because his work is very good. I just don't know why it just struggles. Maybe it's like.
It's tough because Junji Ito is very detail oriented. It's the same reason that it's tough to like make a good Berserk anime, is because they're incredibly detailed, the art. So all of that, like getting all those details in as well as making them move in a convincing way, is so expensive and so time consuming.
Mhm.
And it doesn't work because people want to see that. They want to see the hand-drawn version of that. But
Mhm.
people try and go for like CGI, and it just doesn't have the same appeal to it because it's kind of very clearly CGI,
Mhm.
and people get upset about that. It's a whole thing. Before we continue talking, Manaburn says the Gulf War is the precursor to everything that's happening right now. Fair
Yep.
enough.
Yep.
And Callum, is it as messed up as a lot of people have led me to believe? I've heard some rad stuff. Hunter x Hunter is very rad, and it has a lot of moments that are like super shonen coded, where it's like, hope and friendship and joy and all of that. But yeah, it is pretty messed up. At one point in one of the earlier arcs, a contract assassin has to pee all of the leeches out of his bladder because one of the person's powers is that he lays a bunch of leech eggs in that guy's bladder.
Ew.
Yeah, and it will kill him. Like they'll eat through his body unless he pees them out.
That's nasty.
Yeah, it's rough. To be fair, he's a really bad person.
Well, I mean, that is a kind of a thing that you do see in anime where some of the nastiest fellows will just be doing stuff, you know? It's,
Not the leech guy. The leech guy we get to know for like a chapter. I'm talking about the dude who has to get the leeches out of him. He's a pretty bad guy.
yeah.
Okay, let me go through some of this chat. Marcy says that Halo is very Emilio coded.
Yeah, I've even played the strategy games, the Halo strategy games. That's how much I like Halo. So,
You fucking nerd.
look,
I
man,
can't believe this.
I would, you know how happy I would be if they would bring Halo 2 to Steam. It would be like what, it would be the game
You
of the
can get the
year for
Master
me.
Chief Collection.
Yeah, it doesn't include
pretty sure
Halo.
that
No,
has
not
all the
Halo.
games.
Not Halo 2. Halo Wars 2, right? The strategy game,
Oh.
right? I really want to play it, but it's not on Steam, which is just terrible. Hey, I might actually win this game.
What is it on?
It's on PC, but you can only buy it from the Microsoft store. Okay.
Oh. I was gonna say, it could be a new Patreon goal that we get whatever console it's on.
I
for
think
the
it's
channel,
I think
and
it's
then you can
also
play
on.
Halo Wars.
I think it's all on the new Xbox as well. But I have Halo Wars 1 on PC, but it's just a licensing thing, right? They just need to bring the license to. And hey, look, I might actually get 5 stars on this level.
Okay, so a lot of the chat is people complaining that you said 29 is old, and Marcy and
Yeah.
Manabird both remember the Chamber of Secrets game, and Mr. Hat I think said white. I think he called us white. No, you put the like finger pointing and the laughing face white in quotation marks energy. And Mr. Hat agrees that Halo Wars are great games.
Wow, somebody can beat this level in 6 minutes. That's crazy.
But for why? But for who? But for whom are you doing this, random mystery man?
Wow, and they're doing it in real time too. That person must be a speedrunner. Okay, I mean, I got a 5-star rating on this level. I've never gotten 5 stars.
Hell yeah, dude!
On that
what a
level
way
before.
to end this.
So that's cool. Yeah, that's a great place to end off.
Yeah.
So thank you everybody for watching the stream. We hope that
and
you
for
enjoyed
watching
it.
the Lord of the Rings: The Song of Ice and Fire video. Share it around.
Yeah, that video is doing a lot of numbers. It is getting a lot of people riled up. Sure. But that's kind of like the point of a lot of my videos. If they don't make you, want to go actually, then what is even the point? um,
Yeah, it's up to 1,500 views at the moment.
Whoa, that's crazy. Nice. So thanks
Uh,
everybody. Buy Callum's book. That's also important.
yeah, that'd be cool of you.
And
Uh, you can find the link to it on our Discord.
yep,
So
yep,
join that. And if you don't want to join the Discord, just search A Liar's Tale on Amazon, Lyre''S. I know Amazon not great, but like also I'm self-publishing, so I can have principles when I can pay rent.
yeah. uh, and yeah, good
But
night.
thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay kind, stay friendly. Join us on Monday for the Pokemon streams, and have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.